Who are the characters behind science? This is Science Behind the Glass, illuminating the human side.
In this podcast, we unveil the human side of laboratories and science. Scientists share personal experiences, and we discuss their meanings from different perspectives and fields of research. Welcome to Science Behind the Glass, illuminating the human side. Today we are diving into the world of artificial intelligence, a realm that's both revered and feared. In the scientific arena, AI has become an indispensable tool, revolutionizing fields like medicine, conservation, and modeling. Our special guest today is Raiyan Talkhani, a skilled software engineer who harnesses the power of AI for image processing tasks.
Raiyan holds a bachelor in electrical and computer systems engineering from Malaysia, and a master of engineering of Internet of Things and data engineering from James Cook University, Cairns, Australia. His expertise shines through AI projects where he delves into the face detection and rural road extraction from satellite images. But that's not all. Raiyan also is the co-director of Queensland AI, or former director, and also have a startup, and we are going to delve more in his experience and his prospects. Raiyan, welcome to Science Behind the Glass. Thanks for joining us today. And to start this episode, could you please explain a little bit about your background, a little bit about you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, you explained it quite well. From my career point of view, it was at electrical and computer systems engineering at Monash University, and funnily enough, that's where I first got my taste of AI. I made a project for them back in 2017 for my thesis, which was identifying faces, even when half of the face was covered or part of the face was covered. So this was back then when AI couldn't detect them. So that was my project. So that is where I got my first ever taste of AI. Yeah, and this was in Malaysia. So I grew up in Saudi Arabia, right? So as soon as I finished my schooling in Saudi Arabia, I moved to Malaysia for my university. I wanted to do IT, but it was back then electrical and computer systems engineering was offering more opportunities. So I did that. There I went back to India. I did my internship in electrical engineering, and then I started looking into other opportunities. And I was looking all over the place, Canada, Malaysia again, and I landed in Australia. And I think by far the best choice out of the options I had at the time. But yeah, I got to do my Internet of Things and data engineering master's over that, and that is where I got really into AI, because I had my master's thesis in this field where I was looking at where I had to create an AI that could look at satellite images on rural and remote roads, identify which ones are not basically on the Google map, and just draw it out. So that was a lot of the map. They are missing out rural and remote roads, right? So to bridge this gap, they wanted an AI that could do that. Right now, it was Jaden, who was manually drawing out roads for his entire thesis, and he did such a good job as well. Jaden, they even had some volunteers, but it was mostly Jaden and Yoko, and they managed to map out over 2 million kilometers of road manually by hand, and it was by manually looking through Google Earth satellite view and yeah. So they didn't even know where to so they identified where to look for it with their research. And for this research,
that
right?
sounds painful.
It is. You know how it is, like collecting data published. So this is where the first ever my first ever approach in like how AI can be used for science came into play. Yeah.
And can you explain us a little bit what is the Internet of Things?
Internet of Things. Right, back in 2020, 2019, there was a big hype around these devices. So Internet of Things is basically smart connected devices, and they do have one smart component of it. For example, if you have the connected to internet, that is just a massive product connected to internet. That doesn't mean anything. But Internet of Things is basically machine-to-machine communication, which is if you had a fridge which could look at what is there in your fridge and update your grocery list. Now that is Internet of Things. It is machines communicating with different components or different devices and components within itself or outside itself, looking at what data is given to them and updating their data or making decisions based on the data they have given. So
Sounds
that
very
is it. So that was Internet of Things, and for these, this is again comes in really handy in science, especially who are going out in the field, deploying sensors, monitoring different regions. They don't just need data to be collected; they need decisions to be made by the device.
Technology of internet, the device is monitoring, for example, or controlling the glucose or the levels of
Yeah,
sugar in blood, and
yeah,
telling the person or communicating with the phone of the person and telling like, oh, it's too high or too low. That
yeah.
could be an example.
That would be an example of IoT device. Yeah, that's a really good example.
Oh, that's great. And can you explain us in simple words, like for general public, what is AI?
Oh, AI is artificial intelligence. People can look at things, they can make decisions, they can understand. Like when my hands show up, right? For me, it is like, oh, this is my hand, this is me. But for computers, it is just colors of pixels. It doesn't mean much to them. So up until a couple of years ago, the majority of the computers, the majority of the computer softwares was where people were manually hard coding the programs, manually writing out all the instructions which the computer has to perform in certain different decisions. They had to manually identify what they needed to do, and they had to encode all of the scenarios. Now, a couple of years back, artificial intelligence came in. Now, this was where computers could actually make decisions based on the data. They could interpret data the way people could to a certain extent. Now, they did that by instead of manually coding everything, right? All they did was, okay, computer, here is the data. Here is what I'm studying. Here are the parameters I'm looking at, and these are the responses which we need for certain values of these parameters. So you give the computer a list of those parameters or values, and once you give that to the computer, right, you have already programmed the computer to look at the data and learn a certain way. So instead of say manually encoding the responses or manually encoding the response data, you are actually programming the computer to learn from the data and adjust its decision making. So once the computer learns, right, it can then look at the data and it can refer back to its training or its learning instead of referring back to what the person has coded. AI is really important for scientific work because AI can help analyze data at a larger scale. A lot of scientists, right, when if it is an individual person or a team of people that are looking at data, they can only look at certain small scope of data before they make their generalizations, before they make their statements, or before they do their results. Regardless of how big the team is, you are only capable of looking at limited amount of data. Now, what happens is all these researchers, all these people who hire as data analysts, they suddenly have to, you need to pay them, you need to fund the research, you need to get the resources for them. So it costs a lot of money. Now, AI can do a lot of these, well-trained AI can do a lot of these process of what people take days or months to do. It can do it in minutes or hours. It can process a large amount of data based on how many resources you give it, and it can process the data and come to a conclusion or do an analysis of data within a matter of minutes instead of days or weeks. And this is and it can do the analysis and it can work as if it is working in a team of people or in a group of people. So it has so much power when it is processing the data. AI is really good tool for researchers to use because whatever data they collect, they can progress faster within their research. Something which a master's student does his entire thesis on, now could be a scale of one subject or 1 week of work for a student or a researcher. So you see like how fast the progress in science will be if they're allowed to process a higher scale data at a larger scale or larger capacity.
So it's like optimizing the all the process,
Yes,
that leads to science, for example.
yes,
And
not just optimize, but also processing it at larger scale, speed at which processes are made done, and conclusions, kill and
uh,
conclusion, because it can copy the. Okay, this is where I know it is controversial to say. To a certain degree, it can copy the decision making skills of a skilled individual based on the data you provided to a certain extent. So this is where having that type of skill within your research is going to be really important for scientists than
okay,
just use
that's,
computers
that
or
sounds
just using our.
that sounds exciting. And what ignite your belief in the pivotal role of AI in science? What drew you into this fascinating convergence of technology and research or other potential fieldworks?
Oh, okay. So for me, my background was in engineering, but I've always been a fan of science. I've always been a fan of research. I always enjoyed looking at what other people are doing, other research people are doing in biology, marine biology, and I want to be more involved in these types of research. So that's what got me into working with AI for researchers. Now, the other thing with AI, what the researchers I worked with, they either didn't have data or they had really limited data. So how do we work with that? So that was the other fascinating thing. The other challenge AI is facing now. It's basically how do you work when you have when you have a limited amount of data, and how can you train AI models? How can you make inference on this? So that really fascinated me as a researcher, and that got me involved in the scientific process because they're always at the edge of understanding of what they believe about certain species, what they believe about certain methods and certain concepts, and how they can change their belief. And being there with my tools present for the researchers to use, that was a different kind of challenge, which I really found. Yeah, it was like I was assisting people make important discoveries in their field.
That
So
sounds
that's what got
fascinating.
me. Yeah,
Yes, and especially when you, for example, as you said, like at having enough data to
yeah,
get some conclusions from the data, or for the we sometimes we don't have enough number of animals or sample size, and
yeah,
using AI to help to draw more like insightful conclusions from that without going and
yeah,
getting more animals, or if they are not more, then we can process the data in a different way. That's amazing.
yeah.
And now scientists might not be engineers, but AI provides tools that can optimize scientific endeavors across different fields. How can scientists leverage these tools without in deep and specialized knowledge of an engineer?
Oh, okay. I think 2023 has been a really good year for AI related tools. What has happened is thanks to ChatGPT, Bing, thanks to so many other systems, especially large language models for generative AI, search engine which uses GPT-4. I think scientists and researchers there's already tools which are easy to use, which are easy to understand, which are quick to adapt, which people can quickly adapt, and and the user interface is really easy for these tools. And scientists can start looking at using these tools to further understand what other people are doing with their research. So one of the most important thing which comes with when it comes to any of the research, it is using AI for doing literature review. So this used to be something which took 6 months or 6 months, 12 months. Now this is something that can be done within seconds using GPT or using using Bing's GPT-4, because what it does is it goes through all of the search results and Google's bar. You feed any document to it, it goes through it and it understands what all you can do with it. Oh, it understands what's happening, it summarizes it for you, and it looks at what other people are doing in similar field. Now, one of the because I have been involved in other research fields, I need to read research papers in different fields. which I'm not an expert in, but I still need to come to meetings prepared. Meetings with the knowledge of what each of the researchers are doing. So, Linda, if I come and have a meeting with you, I truly understand what your meeting is about because you are doing something related to drug discovery. But and then the next day I have to go meet somebody in the field of dentistry. So they have different challenges. They have different patient-related challenges. Now these are two completely different things. How do I prepare for it? I use AI to help me understand the research papers in this field, problem statements in this field, and because AI is trained also really specialized knowledge, really specialized terms and some specialized knowledge. It is also really good at dumbing it down for me to understand. So whenever I complete your meetings, right, I go through the research papers, but I also have a co-pilot, big co-pilot, right next to me, which I use to explain certain concepts within those research papers or certain concepts within them. So I think if you, for example, give kids an AI to work, or honestly, do it on supervision, but if you give kids an AI to work, you will see, it will be same as scientists because they are going to ask questions which not all adults can answer. Why is the sky blue? Why is the ocean blue? So for that case, if you look at it like a literature review where you're looking at research what other people have already been doing it, I think that would be a more patient and more easier way for a kid to understand, same as adults, to understand difficult concepts.
So, what are the risks that we have to be mindful of integrating AI into the scientific world?
To be honest, it you need AI is a really good tool. AI is really simple to use, and you don't need any skills. Even the user interface that I've been working on, you don't really need much, much in the way of understanding how AI works to actually help with the understand how AI works, right? Basically. Now, the thing is that you shouldn't worry about AI as a tool, but you need to worry about who is deploying that tool because AI is only trained on producing a certain result, right? But you also need to feed it something for it to produce a certain results. It could be something in your private life. It could be some secret discovery you're making. It could be something, so it could be something which is, for example, proprietary code, proprietary gene coding, or like something which are trade secrets, or you might not want to enter it into into an AI platform because AI is consistently improving. AI is not a set and go sort of scenario. You have to constantly improve your AI models. So when you do that, right, when you actually do this, AI is going to be, you need to be more careful about where you're uploading your scientific data. That would be the number one risk because it could be used for training the next iteration of AI model, and that could result in somebody else making the discovery by just entering a couple of prompts rather than, yeah, so that could happen. That is one of the risks.
So it's like a misleading information, or depending on who is feeding the AI, or
Yes, yes. What other people can do, whether your data is being used for training data, that is one of the risks you need to look into. The other risk you need to look into is that there's a lot of privacy concerns with AI. So again, this is only going to come with where you are uploading your data. This is one of the problems I had when I was building my general purpose AI platform and just be hosting it in the background. So the only way I could mitigate this problem for researchers and scientists was, okay, you can train your own AI models with this, but once you delete the data, even I won't have a copy of the data. So, so that is, yes, exactly. I don't own any of that data. I don't own any of this pre or post processing method. It is yours. Once it is done, it is done. It is not going outside of my, how do I say, outside the, so that is one way, risk with the AI. Number two, the risk is over reliance on AI. Now, there's the new tools, the generative AIs are really good at researchers doing, like I said, literature reviews, right? But this is one skill which researchers and students need to have. knowing how to do literature, you knowing how to look at research papers, understanding the data. You can use AI to help you understand the data better or help improve your skills of using AI to understand your research papers. But there shouldn't be an over-reliance on AI where you just forget certain skills, forget how to do certain things. And that is going to be another risk for researchers. Well, the over-reliance on AI, that you forget certain skills. See, I told you it was a controversial topic.
I know he handle it properly, use it properly, can be amazing, but misusing it and believing all that sense.
Yeah.
Not
And the
good.
third, yeah, and the third most important thing is biases. Now, the risk of AI, right? Yeah, it is a good tool and it over-reliance is bad, but also it is a tool which is trained on data which has already been fed to it. Now, that data can be biased. Now, if the data which it has been trained on is biased, right? All of your research, all of your analytics are going to be inclined towards will lean towards a certain direction than the other direction. Now, it is all going to be based on historic data. And if historically people have done things which are wrong or which are bad, it is going to be 10 times more prevalent in the research. What I'm referring to is more like AI not being able to recognize people of different skin color. For example, if I was brown or if I was black, the initial AI model couldn't actually recognize it because in the training data they only used white people's photos to train their AI models. So that is a massive bias. So when the AI ethics people looked into this, they discovered that AI was really not good at finding people of black or brown skin color. That was number one. Uh, Again, bias based on data. The other one was Amazon at one point was used AI to hire people based on their skills, but the AI only ended up hiring men because it was again trained on historic data. So the men's resumes were given more priority historically over women resumes, right? So because of that bias, historic bias, also went into AI, and then it started like eliminating all the women from the hiring pool. So they mitigate this issue by removing the addresses, removing the names, removing like certain things which would prominently identify any markers which identify it as women, and they've used the resume. That was one way.
It's like a running experiment. You have to try to avoid bias and
Yes,
randomize everything that way to don't have an influence
exactly,
in the results. Oh,
exactly.
that's quite interesting. I have an
Yeah.
idea about that. And then we are also curious to learn more about your startup and your ideas. Could you give us a glimpse into your business and how this intersects with the fascinating world of artificial intelligence?
So my goal with the startup was to create specialized tools for researchers to use with their own data and with create models which are specialized to be used with their own with their own data, AI models to be used with their own data. So that's where I got my idea for the startup, and I looked into GCU, for example. There were a lot of researchers in here. There are a lot of people who are collecting data at like large scale. There are a lot of people who are going into hiking, for example. They're going underwater, they're going into like tropical forests and they're collecting data. Now, with my background in AI, I wanted to find ways with which I could help them develop help them further understand more about the data, help them understand more about the tools they have available and help make AI for them to process their own data. So that's what my startup was all about, to work with researchers. It was again my passion, my hobby, working with researchers, working with businessmen, identifying what they can do with their data and giving them the tools necessary to work with that data.
Oh, that's amazing because
Yeah.
giving a little bit of background to people that doesn't know that one of the biggest steps in science is analyzing data.
Yes.
It's difficult, it's not easy. Not everybody has the same skills. So, for example, there are no statisticians, and it doesn't mean that they just work with a statistician and they understand everything.
Yep.
So that's a big, big process that they have to go through, understanding what type of analysis they are going to carry out, what is meaningful for the collection of the data, what analysis can be or can't not be done. So that's a big step, and I think that is amazing what you are doing, because if you help not only to run the basic analysis of what the researcher is thinking about, also to suggesting other type of analysis that can do or potentially
Yep.
highlight the results that get from those data that is collected. That's amazing. That's
So, thank you. And to add to that, like my specialty was in images. So a lot of these researchers, right? They have a lot of images that need that have like thousands and thousands of frames, which need to be analyzed. And in this case, they have to be analyzed with an individual person to manually look through it and then label it as whether it is this or whether it is that. So they have to manually do that. So what I was doing was like, okay, I'll make a tool that can process thousands and thousands of images within a matter of minutes, rather than having students
weeks.
manually go through it, having research. Yeah, and it takes time. It is time consuming. Having a PhD student manually go through all that data, it will take me. And considering that they have the PhD scholarship for 3 years, for example,
Yeah.
with AI, you still need to do some quality analysis, quality control. It's not like self-driving cars just here. You still need to have somebody behind the wheel.
And
Yeah,
that's what is important to highlight, that AI is not like that the tool is like they are going to replace humans. Actually, it's a tool.
it is a tool. A lot of people there's a lot of scare going on right now where people are talking about AI is going to replace their jobs. Is going to straight up cancel industries. And to be honest, AI will do that. Let's be really honest here. AI is going to make changes. That's going to be jobs which are going to be replaced. That are replaced by computers. But this is also going to give us something which we have been looking towards for a long time. Instead of doing tasks which are repetitive, or instead of doing things which is basically the same thing you're doing over and over again, you can actually automate that with computers right now. Now, as a person, instead of sitting in the office all day, instead of sitting in the lab all day, you can, because you have an AI processing all of this for you, you can spend more time with your family. You spend more time with your people, with your folks, with your friends. You can have more time to yourself, and you can have more time to think and analyze the results rather than processing the data, wondering what you're going to get out of that data. Now, is this going to replace jobs? Yes, it is going to. It is going to take a few jobs, but we are only scared because we cannot see in the future how the new jobs are going to evolve. Now, for example, if you have the data analysts are going to be replaced by consultants, for example. Now they will be able to do consulting jobs as well because they can analyze the data and give feedback from the person. Consultant's job definitely replaced because AI can do the job better. So you don't really have to hire expensive consultants to work with to work on certain or to work with certain for example people like them. You don't need to hire consultants to learn about your data, analyze it, to make decision, help you make decision. You just give AI the data and it can do the consulting for you. Now the consultants, on the other hand, their jobs will evolve into being business managers, being business assistants. They can take more of the management roles of the people, so they can actually take on more responsibility. Because if their jobs are replaced, they can move into a higher team. They will have to learn how to control those tools. Otherwise, yeah, adapt or yeah, for that sounds a little scary, but to be honest, this is what happens to steam engine. This is what happened.
I think that's more like it's a tool that we are developing, and we have to be able to manage and to use it properly, and
Yeah,
I don't know, and leverage and our skills. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and
I see it like that.
yeah, and yeah, no, but to be honest, like a lot of jobs which AI is going to replace, you need to ask yourself, are these really the jobs we want to do in the first place?
Yeah,
it's
that's
repetitive. It is like something people are being exploited for.
Yeah, that's true. And like it takes a lot of time. For example, report that if an AI could help, for example, doctors and with the reports, doing the report. instead of spending hours doing administrative work, instead of investing that time doing research or checking on the patients. So I think, and managing your startup alongside your work in AI sounds challenging. And do you manage your own time? Like, how do you balance your personal life and all
Ah,
the things that
that
you do?
because like for me at the moment over here, it has only been work, work, work.
Yeah,
I
you're
do go out.
workaholic.
Yeah, because this has been my life for a couple of months now, and I genuinely enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy working on that. I used to go for hikes once in a while. I used to go for, yeah, hang out with yeah. I used to go outside to meet friends more often than I do now. But being an entrepreneur and working as a researcher is a very challenging thing. You need to be really passionate about what you do. You need to be really into what you do because you are going to be working with a lot of difficult data, really lot of difficult data, a lot of difficult systems, and it will not just be in difficult systems for AI architecture, but also understanding what people are doing in their research. Like that kind of difficulty. So you won't really have much time to do other things. If you are, it's not something you can just turn off. You have to be on it.
What is your opinion about the concerns of these technologies and the reliance on them to solve social and environmental issues?
Social and environmental issues. Okay, now this is a really good question. Yeah, because let's start with environmental issues more because I know about this. Using AI is going to be offset. It leaves a lot of carbon waste because it will cause to the whole heat. Because here's the thing: when you're training AI, right, you need to use a lot of GPUs, and using GPUs overheats a lot. It takes up a lot of energy, so a lot of data centers, or you'll have in between training AI models and using self-driving cars, using electric cars and everything. I think the consumption of electricity is going to go up drastically in the next couple of years because intensive computers use AI is really expensive to run. So, I mean, it is cheap compared to hiring individuals, but it is expensive in a sense that there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of fuels, there's a lot of, and it takes up a lot of energy and energies are created using coal, energies created using non-renewable resources. It is going to have a lot of impact on the planet. And with our drastic increase in the use of AI, we are also drastically increasing the use of electricity. So it is going to have major environmental impact. And also to make those computers, to make those data centers, it is going to require a lot of resources which are sourced, some not in ethical way.
No, mining.
Yeah, mining, but yeah, a lot of unethical ways. So you need to, AI is going to have a lot of challenges with that as well because certainly there's such a need for these resources, and we need to find, we need to claw out the right way to meet these requirements. So, and this is not something you can use to solve social problems, but it is going to cause a lot of social problems because no matter where you are, there will be controversies on how you train an AI to respond to a certain question, which could be controversial, to a certain group of people as well, because of the data it is trained on, right? So for social issues, this is going to have 100. It's going to be more challenge because whatever the AI is echoing, people might echo, and vice versa. Whatever people are echoing, AI will echo the largest because of AI, because of bias training data, because it is going to be down to cater to a certain group of people than others.
What is in your professional personal life?
Oh, yes, I will be moving to Brisbane. Main goal before I start my job in Brisbane is to host my AI platform and just leave it running in the background. So I'll be giving you a link for debugging and testing and debugging stage. Andrew will be debugging it. Andrew will be handling everything. So yeah,
Oh, that's
so
amazing. So you're moving to Brisbane to work for a company.
yes, I got because of all the consulting I did for my company over here. They require those skills in Brisbane as well. They need somebody to actually understand how the data actually work, how they can actually, how they can really develop AI related work, for people with different problems. So this is what I've been doing for a year. I used to meet you, I used to meet doctors, researchers, and everyone, right? And I used to help them understand how AI solution can be created to meet their needs using off-the-shelf products. Or creating a project for them. This was something I already did. So to help with this skill is something which they need for the startup again I'm working for. So they need this. It's called Copilot HQ. They are solutions architects. What they do is they look at how people are currently working and they find ways to implement AI within it.
That's
Yes.
so cool. That's
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the handover as well because my project will go live and it will be handled. Everything will be handled by Andrew. So yeah, I'll just be
Andrew
yeah.
is your partner in the company, right?
Andrew going to be
It's going to be the
going to be because yeah, I need because this is not something I can manage on my own, right?
Yeah, no, that long.
Yes.
That's great. And lastly, tell us an anecdote that you have had during your studies or your career path. And it can be funny or it can be a challenging one, or both.
I would say that my most favorite moment, it isn't interesting or it is very defining for me as my career as an AI developer as well. It was back when I was doing my research with Jaden, right? So one of the things that happened was my AI was not working. It was 1 week for the submission of my thesis. My AI was just not performing. I couldn't get it to reach the levels or reach the accuracy levels which are needed for it to actually by individuals, right? I could not get it to do that. And I was panicking and I was panicking. And there's this really smart lecture I had with that. Like, I needed somebody who didn't know anything about my research, so I couldn't go to my supervisor at the time as well. Like, I needed somebody with a fresh perspective. So I randomly go to this genius, I would say. He's having poor guy is trying to enjoy his engineering barbecues. You have like one every semester where all the engineers come up, the students or you. So I just go to him and I'm having my burger and I'm like, hey, hi, random question. I know you're enjoying your burger, but I'm having so problems. My AI is not reaching the accuracy level. What is going wrong with it? And then he gives me and it, like just without hesitation. The guy is so good at the time. He just points out like, okay, do this. Your models are not reaching like a certain threshold. Your training is insufficient. This, and he gives me a list of things that are wrong. And 1 week for submission. That basically 2 days later, like my training, like I used to do it overnight anyway. It performed twice as well. It just happened. Dr. Bronson Phillip. Yeah, but my supervisors were also really helpful, but this is not something which we could figure out at the time why it had happened. But and I think those lessons were really important because those are some things which I still the exam I still apply with this team, and I have further developed my understanding of AI, understanding on how to train AI models based on the conversation I had with them.
What an amazing interview. I personally like AI as a tool and use it almost daily for repetitive tasks. However, it needs to be used wisely and not blindly accept everything it provides or suggests. I make it a point to double check citations and concepts whenever I use it. What are your thoughts about Danny?
Yes, those are good precautions. This is a controversial hot topic right now, and as usual, it seems to be about taking sides, pro-AI and anti-AI. I think it's interesting to address the legitimate concerns of people more on the anti-AI side, because there are important discussions that are still scarce. For example, the role of governmental regulation and the importance of building consensus around the limitations that this technology might need. Nevertheless, this is already happening, and I think there is no turning back. So it is urgent to have these discussions at every level of society.
I agree. The ethical concerns need to be addressed. I think that as it evolves, it's also necessary to guarantee people that it is safe to use. And as Ryan pointed out, depending on the task or field, who is feeding the system needs to be careful with information that provides to the AI, because this can lead to biases and discrimination.
Yes, that is right. In the end, I see that this technology, as many others, will probably reflect the creators as they are, for good or for bad. I think we as humans are at the breaking point where we need to take a good self-evaluation and decide to be better, because this technology will probably co-evolve with us.
Absolutely. It is important to recognize that just because AI is effective on one specific task doesn't necessarily mean it can be seamlessly applied to other tasks or fields. Training the tool is crucial. And it's vital to approach AI with a realistic mindset, steering clear of the misconception that it can solve all problems like a fortune teller. Each application requires careful consideration and thoughtful implementation for optimal results.
Right, something similar has happened with different technologies. Maybe in this case, it seems a bit easier to use these chatbots than using, for example, the first computers. So it might be easier to misusing it or misinterpreting it. So I think that may be the obstacles that scientists can find on using this kind of technology.
And with this, we reach the end of this episode. We thank you for listening and our interviews for their time. Tune in again in 2 weeks for more Science Behind the Glass, illuminating the human side. This episode was inspired by curiosity, personal experiences, and the paper Artificial Intelligence in Science, an emerging general method of invention. We will leave the references to these materials in the episode description. This podcast is self-funded and self-edited by its host. Find us on our YouTube channel, Spotify, and our official website, Science Behind the Glass. Follow us in our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Original music by our colleague and friend Bernardo Aguila.